It's Friday, November 12. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gill. Agriculture and Fisheries Minister Audley Shaw is encouraging more youth and new entrant farmers to engage in organic farming and tap into the multi-billion-dollar demand for organic products. Global farming market size valued at $95.38 billion in 2020 and is projected to reach $213.67 billion by 2030. The Agriculture and Fisheries Minister was speaking at a virtual Organic Farming and Healthy Eating in Jamaica seminar on November 11, 2021, organized by the Department of Sociology, Psychology and Social Work, UWI-Mona campus. Mr. Shaw says that there is a growing demand for organic food products worldwide, with the Food and Agriculture Organization stating that land earmarked for organic cultivation grew from 15 million hectares in 2000 to 71.5 million in 2018. The Ministry of Health has spent $1.4 billion on outsourced diagnostic tests under its Universal Public Health Services. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton gave an update on the Public-Private Partnership Initiative in Parliament this week.
The Health Minister says his team is working to enhance healthcare service delivery by improving access.
The project was designed to work with the private providers of diagnostic services as part of the Ministry of Health and Wellness short and medium-term strategy for the reduction in wait time and to alleviate the overcrowding in hospitals through outsourcing of those diagnostic services at no cost to the patient.
He says the project is aimed at addressing certain deliverables under the Universal Access to Public Health Services system.
One, access to diagnostic services. If our hospitals do not have those diagnostic equipment and can't provide those services, removal of social cases, and the outsourcing of elective surgeries.
Minister Tufton says the project began in 2019 and over 40,614 tests have been completed under the diagnostic component.
It means that 40,000 plus Jamaicans who more often than not would have been in a public hospital waiting on a CT scan or an X-ray, but the equipment was either absent or not working, were able to go to a private provider under contractual arrangements with the government to access those diagnostic services. And I know, Madam Speaker, that our members of Parliament can relate to this, because many of those persons, when they can't afford it, end up right in the MP's office to ask for them to pay for the CT scan and pay for the X-ray and so on. Well, under this program, the government has provided those services once we can't provide it in the hospital.
According to the Health Minister, services such as CT scans, ultrasounds, mammograms, fluoroscopic studies, and more have been done at a cost of about $1,421 million.
In healthcare, Madam Speaker, when those who need it most and could not afford it were able to get it. The 40,000 plus tests completed to date, Madam Speaker, CT scans accounted for 65%, MRIs 13%, and ultrasound 16% of examinations requested by the different hospitals on behalf of their patients, with a higher percentage of females, 53% of the 40,000, accessing services, and 46% being males.
Dr. Tufton says the program is in keeping with providing equitable, universal health services in the public health system.
Businessman Chris Williams has donated a scholarship in his name to help tertiary students at the University of the West Indies. The scholarship will be facilitated through the 30-year-old UWI Development Endowment Fund. There was a symbolic signing and check handing over at the fund's headquarters recently.
Now that we're in a position to make a contribution, we, without hesitation, decided that we wanted to step forward and make the sacrifice, or make the personal sacrifice and make this contribution. So, Principal, it is my pleasure to represent my family and my wife in particular in making this contribution. We know UWI makes dreams come true. It made ours come true, and we know it makes dreams come true.
UWI Principal and Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Dale Webber welcomed the donations from Mr. Williams.
We're so pleased that you and your family have decided to make this contribution, and the best vehicle to do it through is, of course, UWIDF. As we examine the possibilities, the fact that you have already articulated what you want as the requirements and the goals that are there, for us, it matches and aligns perfectly with the university's quest for excellence. It means not only are we looking at academic excellence, but they're going to demonstrate leadership. They're going to demonstrate some kind of involvement. It probably will be sport based on where we're coming from, but involvement in other aspects. There are over 110 clubs here at the UWI where students can hone their talents and become the better version of themselves.
We want to thank the Williams family most sincerely for finding the time to join us as a family. You know, a lot of people talk about what they like to do, but not everybody follows up. And this is it's just going to push, as the principal said, somebody over the edge. Somebody's dream is going to come true because of this. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your generosity.
Customers in Port Royal and the surrounding areas in Kingston are likely to have their electric power restored today, Friday, November 12. JPS says more than 400 customers in Port Royal and the surrounding areas have been without electricity since Tuesday because of damage to its underground cable. The Light and Power Company says the 1-kilometer stretch of electrical underground cable is being replaced as it is beyond repair. We're living in a so-called digital age. In 2017, a little over 55% of the Jamaican population could access the internet. Fast forward to present, and internet access is still a challenge. Recently, we carried a story on the rural community of Riverhead in western St. Thomas. Among the challenges faced by residents was lack of internet connectivity and resources for students. One educator, however, responded by journeying to Riverhead to see for himself and effect change. Carol Francis has that story.
Residents of Riverhead recently vented their frustrations about issues affecting their community: bad roads, lack of water, and internet connectivity.
We need somebody to come in and speak to us. Better road system, better internet for a child, to children them, for they are the man and woman for tomorrow. So I'm asking and I'm pleading to the official. From last year they're not in school, but they're getting no internet service. From last week, my child, though assist no class.
Students were observed on rooftops trying to get Wi-Fi signal. Seafort High Principal Calbert Thomas heard of the plight of one of his students that lives in Riverhead. He journeyed to the community to see the problem firsthand.
Who is this? Rashida? Rashida, morning. Mommy? Good morning, sir. Is this Millie? Yes, Miss Morning. I see that you're in class. Yes, good morning. I tell you something. I tell you something, miss. I am like 70 miles away from Seafort. Where Yashida live, it is, I'm telling you, it is way beyond. I don't even know where I am in St. Thomas right now. Yes, it's really a challenge. So I am here with her this morning based on the challenges that, you know, she would have been experiencing. Have to be on her house stop and all of that to get a little internet. And it is really good to see that, you know, for this morning she's able to be in class online with you. All right, great effort.
This is what happened in the end.
This is a real challenge. And, I think the ministry really have to speed up the process of getting the internet into these areas. For us to have any kind of stability for students learning.
Speaking in Parliament in December 2020, Science, Energy and Technology Minister Darrell Vaz announced initiatives by the government to expand the island's internet penetration. These initiatives include the rapid expansion of public Wi-Fi hotspots across the country, also increased electronic educational content for students living in rural and inner city communities. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Carol Francis.
In today's business report with Gabriel Thompson, we get our regular market updates plus a timely advisory from Tax Administration Jamaica.
The Tax Administration Jamaica TAJ is advising employers that statutory deductions S01 for October are due on Monday, November 15. This is as a result of the usual due date of the 14th day of the month falling on the weekend. Taxpayers will therefore be allowed to submit their October S01 the following business day, Monday, November 15, without incurring any penalty. The tax authority says employers can benefit from the employment tax credit if they make their payments on time. Eligible persons must file and pay their monthly statutory payroll deductions on time. Such employers may claim the total amount of payroll statutory contributions for education tax, NHT, NIS, and HART, that is, both the employee and employer portions, which have been declared and paid on time for that year. The maximum amount that can be claimed is 30% of the income tax payable in the year of assessment for unregulated entities. For more information, contact the Tax Administration's Customer Care Center at 888-TAX-HELP. That's 8888-294357, or visit the website at www.jamaicatax.gov.jm. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, November 11, the US dollar sold for an average $156.41. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $125.20. The pound sterling traded for $210.78, and the euro sold for an average $183.89. In Thursday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 1,648 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 93 stocks, of which 47 advanced, 36 declined, and 10 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 13 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Blue Par Group Limited, and CAC 2000 Limited. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited, and Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share. Pulse Investments Limited was the volume leader with over 9.5 million units, followed by Carreras Limited with over 5.1 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 4.4 million units. In market data for oil, prices fell on Friday, wiping out gains from the previous session as the dollar continued to firm on expectations that the U.S. Central Bank will bring forward an increase to interest rates in an effort to tame inflation. Brent crude futures dropped 86 cents or 1% to $82.01 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude was down $1.08 at $80.51 a barrel. Both benchmark crude contracts were poised to end the week lower after sharp swings driven by a strengthening dollar and speculation on whether the Biden administration might release oil from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve to cool prices. There are positive signs on the demand side, with air travel picking up rapidly, but tighter monetary and fiscal policy and the looming Northern Hemisphere winter will act as a dampener. And with that, we close this Friday edition of the Business Report inside the news on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
In regional news, Grenada's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles, says residents thinking about getting vaccinated now have a third opinion. More details in this GBN report.
From tomorrow, Friday, the 11th of November, Grenadians will have a third option of COVID-19 vaccine as health officials announced the arrival of Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sean Charles says the small supply of vaccines that will be administered to people 18 years and older arrived in Grenada on Thursday.
I'm pleased to announce that the Ministry of Health has received a small supply of Johnson & Johnson vaccines, 2,000 doses to be exact, which we are going to make available to the Grenadian public. As you are aware, this vaccine has the advantage of being a single dose vaccine. So we encourage everyone to come out and get their shots.
On April 23rd, CDC and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration resumed the use of Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine after a temporary pause. In October, the Food and Drug Administration authorized a Johnson & Johnson vaccine booster shot. The booster allows anyone who got the one shot to get an added dose of protection at least 2 months later. The Chief Medical Officer reminded Grenadians that booster shots for the AstraZeneca vaccine are now available to the public.
Yes, we are offering a third dose of AstraZeneca vaccine to individuals age 65 and over, individuals 18 years and over who have underlying medical problems, and to individuals 18 years and over who work on the front lines and are at increased risk of exposure and infection with COVID-19.
According to the Ministry of Health's latest dashboard, 72,148 doses of COVID-19 vaccines were administered. 32,949 people are fully vaccinated and 6,250 people are partially vaccinated. For GBN News, I am Rena P. Thomas reporting.
St. Lucia's COVID-19 Management Center conducted its inaugural meeting on Thursday. The advisory body stressed the need for St. Lucians to play their role to avoid any major setbacks as the festive season approaches.
Chair Cletus Springer made an impassioned plea for cooperation at the opening of the inaugural meeting of the COVID-19 Management Center on Thursday, November 11th. The pandemic recovery, recently set back by a devastating fourth wave, has also been forestalled by simmering vaccine resistance and an avalanche of disinformation. It's a prevailing sentiment that a small island state bereft of resources can ill afford, especially with lives at stake.
I paraphrase Thomas Paine, who said, "These are the times that try our souls. We can shirk from the service if our country needs it, or we can stand resolute in its defense against the armies of COVID-19. If we can do this, my friends, our country will become a model that the rest of the world will gaze upon with admiration forever."
Springer identifies a divisive political climate as another culprit behind the slow recovery. The career professional asserts cooperation and unity of purpose are required to wrest control of the COVID-19 situation.
When did our political culture become so pregnant with acrimony that we can't agree on the need for and importance of some very simple steps to keep ourselves safe from a vicious virus? There is constructive and destructive criticism, and so too there's constructive and destructive politics. What the fight against COVID requires is constructive criticism and constructive politics.
A polarized landscape remains, even months removed from the 2021 general election, with politically charged rhetoric filled with allegations and counter-allegations on both sides of the political divide on who is to blame for the fallout. Springer urges citizens to put aside petty politics and focus on their own health and safety in an effort to nurse the island back to health, both from the COVID-19 virus and the deep scars of the very partisanship that has torn the nation asunder.
I urge all institutions and agencies who have the power to influence a positive outcome in our fight against COVID to do what they can and must do to give our country a fighting chance against this virus. There will always be differences in opinion on any policy, but in such situations, the best we can do for our country is what our country expects of us.
Springer underscored the issues he says needs to be at the forefront of the minds of citizens as the CMC looks to inform the process of devising policies and measures to secure lives and livelihoods.
Our respiratory hospital has a maximum capacity of 130 beds. It has 2 operating theaters, 1 fixed, overworked X-ray machine, and another mobile. This is the reality that must frame our debates on the rights and wrongs of COVID policy, on the need for SOEs and so on. This is the reality that should shape how we go about our daily lives, living with a highly infectious virus raging among us. The role of the COVID Management Center is twofold: to advise Cabinet on COVID-19 matters and to oversee activities required to reduce and prevent the spread of the virus. These roles are guided by one metric, and that is keeping our hospitalization rate to under 20%. Our ability to live with COVID will depend on the movement of that metric, whether up or down.
The chair of the COVID-19 Management Center remains optimistic that the steely resolve of officials, with the cooperation of all stakeholders, can see the country through these trying times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
A new trend is gaining increased attention from Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Senior Superintendent Joseph Chandul says the growing trend of online robberies is concerning. Ayana Carter has more in this report.
Senior Superintendent Joseph Chandul explained what online robberies are.
These are instances where people try to transact sales online and meet at a location and is often robbed of either the cash or the commodity which they have for sale.
The senior superintendent noted that this type of crime is relatively new and further stated that the TTPS will be doing all in its power to curb this scourge.
One event is too many for the TTPS, as we have always said. So we are pursuing it assiduously and vigorously to bring the culprits to justice.
Persons were cautioned to protect themselves and their property, especially during the upcoming Christmas season, and Senior Superintendent Chandul offered some guidelines.
Try to meet at a venue which is not risky. The executive has urged the meeting place to be at a police station. If one asks to meet at a police station and the other party refuses to do so, that ought to raise a red flag.
The senior superintendent was speaking at Thursday's TTPS media conference. Ayana Carter, TTT News.
In sports, we tee off with golf. The 54th Jamaica Open Golf Championship will be held at the Trial Golf Club for the 3rd consecutive year from November 14 to November 17. The championship continues to be a 3-day 54-hole tournament on the par 72 course. The late professional golfer Jasper Markland is the honoree this year. He won the Jamaica Open twice, in 1964 and 1967. He was also the caddy master at Constant Spring for many years.
He was a great, great coach. And he was a mentor of our president, who went on to become an icon for women's golf, in fact, for golf in the Caribbean. She has her own golf tournament named after her in the Caribbean Championships. And she started with Jasper, and so many golfers did. And not only did some of us benefit, but remember, Jasper lived at Cassava Peace, and he was then able to help golfers develop. And I'm talking about some of the caddies that went on after him. And Jasper's fingerprints are on Jamaican golf. You can't talk about golf in Jamaica and not mention Jasper Markland.
Markland's daughter, Margaret, was very appreciative of the honor and recognition of her dad's contribution to the sport over many years. The Jamaica Golf Association President Jodimon Barrow spoke to this year's competition at a media briefing last week.
We've already surpassed our entries from last year, and we think that we might actually get past 60, maybe even 65 entries, both professional and amateurs, local and overseas. To note, we have entries from the US, Canada, the Dominican Republic, Bermuda, Dubai, and Trinidad and Tobago. So we're happy that it's not just within the US, and we've gotten a wider reach.
And that's our package. As always, we say thank you so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.